So I think that, as I said, curiosity about the outside world, a fondness for cultures which are not yours, and just the dynamics of geopolitics. You need to be fond of this subject. If you're not passionate about these things, then it's a skill set you will find difficult to acquire. Most of all, I think it's also critical thinking skills which are important. To be able to dot the I's and really cross the T's is very difficult in geopolitics. It requires knowledge about a country. It requires knowledge about a language of the country. It requires knowledge about the culture of a country, and it requires knowledge about how different cultures interact each other to produce negotiations which lead to the advancement of national interest. So it's a whole lot of skill sets, but they all come together with this course, which I think outlines the basics in terms of explaining what diplomacy is all about, what foreign policy is all about, and what international relations is all about. Oh, I think there is nothing like acquiring qualifications first. I mean, we've got a flagship course, which is a BA in Global Affairs, and then we have this amazing online course, which is MA in International Relations, Security and Strategy. You can go on to do a PhD, postdoctoral. So the first requirement and the first advice I'd give to students is don't say no to further knowledge. That's the first. Second, I think it's important to keep in touch with practitioners. Our university is lucky. There are quite a few ambassadors who now teach diplomatic practice in the university. It's important to listen to the practitioners, try to get their perspective on what this subject is all about. Last but not least, just read, and read. There are any number of journals, newspapers, news channels which talk of geopolitics and international relations, and it's important for a student to be on top of current events. That is an important tip. You cannot afford to be divorced from what is happening around you in the world. Oh, hugely, I would say. I mean, we try to incorporate as many current events as possible. Today, for example, we've come to know that President Trump has been elected again. Former President Trump will now be the next president of the United States. I cannot even begin to think of the many geopolitical repercussions of a second Trump presidency. It will impact the international economy. It will impact trade. It will impact the conflict in Ukraine. It will impact the conflict in Gaza. So many of these things are dependent on just one presidential election. So what we try to do in the course is use the basic videos and the basic material of the course to interpret global events as they occur. So what I would do is take my class of diplomatic practice and see how a Trump presidency will impact on the many different aspects of diplomacy that I try to explain in my course. So current events are hugely important, and you're right, we use them as examples to try and explain the basic concepts to students, also to try and impart critical thinking skills in students.